Hi, I'm Benny Klein, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Erikson's sixth stage of psychosocial development called intimacy versus isolation. But first, let's talk about the history and definitions of this entire theory. Created in the 1950s by psychoanalyst Erik Erikson, the 8 stages of psychosocial development is extremely prominent in modern psychology. It characterizes each developmental stage of life with a certain conflict, which contributes to an individual's personality. Erikson believed that a person's needs are universal at birth, but as kids and adults grow, their relationships with these needs influence their personality traits. So, Erikson's sixth stage of development of intimacy versus isolation is one of the longest age ranges, consisting of around ages 18 to 40. It focuses on the virtue of love and relationships, according to researcher McLeod. The primary concern of this stage is whether we isolate ourselves or surround ourselves with those with whom we love. The search for romantic love and intimacy is a universal one. However, nowadays, as the epidemic of loneliness rages, this stage becomes increasingly more important. So, what's going on in this stage? Well, physically, the body is mostly development, with maybe the exception of the prefrontal cortex and the brain, which develops fully around the age of 25. Emotionally, though, that's where this stage really comes in handy. The main area of focus in this stage is emotional. Many often consider this the stage, the search for love. Psychologically, we're trying to find belonging, building deep trust with others, and probably dealing with the psychological ramifications of isolations and loneliness. The psychosocial crisis in this stage is the search for intimacy. Will I find love? Or will I be doomed to live a life alone? Without a healthy sense of intimacy, people may lack the support or ability to successfully navigate later stages of life. Themes in this stage include dating, trying to form and maintain healthy romantic, as well as platonic relationships. Someone who successfully navigates this stage of intimacy versus isolation looks like this. Whether it's romantic or otherwise, they have others in their life with whom they love and with whom they feel safe. This also has dramatic improvements on their personality. Someone, unfortunately, who does not pilot this identity crisis well finds themselves alone a lot, and that can lead to generally worse personality traits, health, and social acuity. Using an activities index checklist with college freshmen, researcher UFIT found that the intimate individual is characterized by stability, sociability, and warmth. The isolated, on the other hand, was self-centered, self-doubting, and mistrustful. And, quote, at best, his relationships with others are formal and stereotypes, lacking in warmth and spontaneity. It is important to know that there are some major challenges that some people face in this stage. People who live in impoverished neighborhoods may not have accessibility to strong social systems, such as schools, universities, community hubs, or even activity centers. Think about it like this. If you have the ability to be around more people doing work, playing a game, or having fun, you're much more likely to bond with them. Families who live in poorer neighborhoods may need the young adult in this situation and in this stage to sacrifice their own personal search for intimacy in order to help care for younger siblings. Instances like these, and many others like it, inhibit their success in this stage. Now, I know what you're thinking. What about if I don't successfully navigate the previous stages? What does that mean for me in this stage? Well, before stage 6 of intimacy versus isolation, stage 5 of identity versus identity confusion is typically ages 12 to 18. This is where teenagers find themselves, what they like and what they dislike. An unresolved stage 5 can mean coming into stage 6 without an integrated sense of identity, and that may deter people from wanting to be with you, and it would make it harder to find intimacy. On the other hand, the popular person in stage 6 would likely be someone who truly resolved their identity crisis back in stage 5. So, what about future stages? What aspects of this stage might we see playing out in later stages? Many studies show that successful aging is strongly correlated with healthy relationships, such as the one carried out by Cornwell, Lauman, and Schum. In this study, we see that building healthy relationships helps for longevity and longer, more healthy lives. This means that good intimate stage 6 will set us up for a longer, more meaningful stage 7 and stage 8. If we don't, unfortunately, it may mean that our physical and mental health decline at a much steeper rate as we age. So let's talk about the world and the chronosystematic events. Chronosystematic events include socio-historical events that have major effects on adults in the stage. For example, political transitions, climate change, and especially wars and massacres like the most recent ones. All these events and more drastically impact individuals in stage 6, especially because we, or they, are mainly the primary decision makers for the world. Here is an excellent case study about which I'm quite familiar. My younger brother, who is now 20 years old, is a great example of someone who had such a successful stage 5 in discovering himself that people naturally gravitate towards him now in his current stage, stage 6, of intimacy versus isolation. He has a girlfriend who he has been dating for over a year now and has friends who practically idolize him. As life course theory states, each life stage influences the next, and my brother has set himself up quite well for this next stage. I predict that my brother develops his romantic relationships, he gets married, builds a family, and I'm pretty sure he'll maintain those strong connections with some of his friends. However, the one thing that does worry me is his identity outside of his parents, or our parents, really. My brother has spent a lot of his life trying to please his and our parents. As he enters stage 6 with an possibly unresolved or unhealthy identity surrounding his parents, this may interfere with his adult decision making, such as where to live, when to get married, what to do professionally. These are all big decisions that will subsequently impact him in stage 7, generativity versus stagnation, and inevitably in stage 8, integrity versus despair. Overall, this is a pretty important stage of Erikson's theory. The one concern that I have is the age range too wide? From 18 to 40, there's typically a lot going on in people's lives that changes throughout these years. Author Jeffrey Arnett writes about the distinctive nature of emerging adults and how 20 to 30 is likely pretty different than what we would consider regular adulthood. So maybe we should compartmentalize and separate these two into separate stages because the demographics are just so different and wide-ranging. Regardless though, the reason I still think that this age range is logical and acceptable is that the need for love and conflict of intimacy versus isolation is still present across all these ages. A 25-year-old and a 4-year-old are still probably looking for that same love. So thank you for listening. I hope you learned a little bit with me about intimacy versus isolation, Erikson's 6th stage of psychosocial development. Thank you.